Namaskar. The Gunner site is back. Today is Monday, and a very important topic that needs to be discussed. In fact, two topics that we are going to discuss. Let's welcome the General Ravi Shankar, General Raj Shukla, and General Hari Mohan Iyer. Namaskaram to all of you, sir.
Namaskar and thanks a lot.
Who would like to bat first today? I didn't run it by you. General Ravi Shankar, let's start with you because we have been talking about India-US alignment. What came out today could have been construed as something to just take the edge off of the verdict that came in Bangladesh. I mean, these days things have become so convoluted, but I'll give you the floor, sir. Let's take a look at the India-US alignment. There was a big deal on the liquefied natural gas. See, there are some confusions. LNG is different from LPG, according to me. I don't know. I could be wrong about this. Over to you, sir.
Well, it doesn't matter whether you call it LNG or LPG, it's all gas, right? The thing is, this is a 1-year deal, which is normally not done because all these are on spot prices, 1 month, 2 months, and forward prices and things like that. But now you've gone into a deal for 1 year with USA. Now that's a long time in this world of LNG, LPG, and all, which means that you're in for the long haul with the USA. It's a turnaround from what Trump was speaking, 50% tariff, 100% tariff, all that nonsense. But you can't see just because there's a LNG deal which has been struck for 1 year, it doesn't mean that that's the only deal. Look, the way I look at it, there are 4-5 factors, and I'm sure others will weigh in on this. But let me outline the factors. The first factor is the India-US defense partnership is pretty deep, right? We've been with them for the past 20 years, in fact 25 years, and we've got our complete strategic logistics fleet or strategic airlift, a lot of our firepower, a lot of our other kinds of logistics and ISR capabilities are based on US equipment. And that equipment is going to stay with us for the next 25, 30 years. Whether we like it or not, whether US likes it or not, India likes it or not, we have a relationship going forward for the next 25 years. So if that is going to be sacrosanct, I mean, that's the fundamental on which you're going to think. You have no choice but to cooperate. So somewhere this tariffs have to start a thing. Otherwise, both lose. And I think that realization came. And that realization came when our defense minister and Pete Hegseth, their war secretary, signed the 10 years defense framework agreement. I mean, the 10-year defense framework agreement always existed. It is just a renewal for the next 10 years. There's also a commitment for logistics. There's also a commitment for ship repairs. A lot of their ships don't have to now go back all the way to wherever they were going for repairs and refit. That infrastructure is available in India. Plus, you have this 4 basic agreement, Beka, Lemova, Dismova, and all those. They're not running away anywhere. So I think there is some sense dawning on this whole relationship both ways. And now, last I heard Mr. Trump saying, we have to reduce the tariffs on India. It can't last forever. And then earlier he used to talk of, we're going to cut off, India has to cut off oil from Russia, importing the oil from Russia. These days he's also saying they'll reduce. It's going to be considerably reduced. Now, considerably reduced is very elastic. It's elastic in volume and elastic in time. So there is a realization. But more than all this is Trump has hit a hard wall with China. There's no headway with China. Okay. Apart from the no headway with China, China and Japan are in a big spat. There is a renewed interest of China going into Taiwan, right? And there are the spat with Philippines is going up. Then Japan, Taiwan, and Philippines are into a lot of deals which has got China up in a smoke, right? Now, all these put together, the Indo-Pacific has come up. If the Indo-Pacific has come up and the focus has come up, which General Raj Shukla did mention in the last podcast of ours, right? And that the fact that America seems to be waking up again. Okay, like Rip Van Winkle, it went to sleep, or Rip Van Trump. Okay, and coming back, then they're suddenly realizing you can't get into the Indo-Pacific without India. You can't get into the Indo-Pacific with Pakistan. Definitely not. Right. So the hard facts of geopolitics and the way things are played out are coming back up. And I don't. I mean, even last time, and it's been my consistent position that this problem with USA is going to be it's timed, and that time is over. Yes. What has changed with the USA is there is no strategic relationship. It's a relationship. Whether it will go back to being strategic is it's a moot point. So I think this relationship has got its own depth. Like I said in the beginning, it's not going to bottom out. Right? We don't have a choice with each other. Actually, that's the fundamental. With China, you have a choice. With USA, you don't have a choice. There's a limit to the choices you can make. Right? So this is what I thought I'll put across in the beginning. Back to you, Shreya.
Thank you so much, sir. General Raj Shukla, this presents us with a lot of opportunities, in my opinion, sir, because there is a dawning in the United States, especially looking at how their weaponry is made. 90%, 80 to 90%, depending on which military contractor you talk to, sources their components from China. So they may be able to, if there's a full-blown war against China, 15-20 days is all US will be able to last. After that, they don't have any more. The pipeline is going to get stuck. That's one of the challenges that they have. On the other hand, India has proved itself more than sufficiently that it is a responsible power, whether it is politically or militarily. India is a very responsible power. So I foresee closer ties between India and United States, especially from a defense point of view. Uh, your thoughts are you've been studying this area, especially the Indo-Pacific, for a long time. I'd like you to weigh in. How deep do you see this is going to go?
So let's do some plain speaking today on the Indo-US relationship. I, for quite some time, have been absolutely gung-ho on the Indo-US relationship, purely from the Indian point of view, because I don't see any alternative. So, post February 2025, when the weather began to go bad, I somehow did not see any change in the long-term climate. I think that is what General Shankar also was alluding to. What do I mean by that? It is in both, as India, plots its rise, we have no choice but to lean on the Americans if we have to balance China. And the Americans have no choice but to lean on India if they have to balance China. But this coming together of the Indo-US relationship has many metrics. There is the size of our market, what we buy from them, trade, tariffs, and a whole lot of other issues. But the central point, what should we reach the grand bargain around or about? My own view is that there has to be give and take. India is also, not entirely innocent. We have been very protectionist. If you ask me frankly, our tariffs have been high. So in this give and take, I will leave it to the specialists. We may have to give something on agriculture, do some of this energy stuff. But the grand bargain is what we get from the Americans in terms of technology. Because those really cutting edge technologies, we have no other source but the Americans. And let me tell you, in both the countries, there is a huge anti-US lobby amongst Indians, which will lie low for a while and surface when things go wrong. And that's exactly what happened when things went wrong with President Trump. And there is this lobby in America, I presume represented by the likes of Lutnick and Besnet, those who think that India is not fair. India puts a lot of conditions. India does a lot of moralizing, strategic autonomy, this, that, and the other. Both have a point. Perhaps India does too much of this moralizing strategic autonomy, this, that, and the other. And the Americans are too transactional. You speak to some of the senior service chiefs and army officers, they'll tell you that despite our buying so many of these platforms from the Americans, when it comes to, in-country programming, use of their weapon systems, they attach a whole lot of conditions, which makes it very difficult for us to, use this kind of equipment. Let me just give you an example. I heard it anecdotally, though say we take F-35s from the Americans. Say, I don't think we have been talking about it at this point. Why do we need F-35s? In the current BVR stalemate, you cannot operate in the contested envelope without stealth. I think everybody knows that. What are our options for stealth? Su-57 from the Russians, F-35s from the Americans. The Su-57s, for some strange reason, have not performed in Ukraine. So our only option is the F-35. But if our relationship was on a sound track, I think we would have got the F-35s by now. But because of this moralizing, and the fact that the F-35 needs weekly software updates, and the Americans will say, if you have the S-400, we can't give you these F-35s. It is these things that come in the way of an expanding Indo-US relationship. So the grand bargain, in my view, is that we make some concessions on agriculture, this, that, trade, tariff, but we must get high-end technologies from America, not in the technology transfer mode, but in the joint development, because we have no other option. Let me also say this, and I would love General Shankar and General Hari Mohan to respond. While the Russians have been good friends, they've given us a whole lot of stuff. The Russians have resourced the rise of the PLA in the first phase and continue to do so, giving the Chinese high-end technologies, fixed generation aircraft, quieter submarines, this, that, and the other, which they don't give to us. So even when it comes to choosing between this best friend, Russia, and the Americans, in terms of technology, I think the only hope is the Americans. And the final point I'd like to make is this, that, India does not want America's treasure. We will shed our own blood. The only thing we need from you is technology. And the Americans must somehow realize that a technologically enabled India, a technologically enabled Indian military is in the American self-interest. So every time this question, why should we give you, you will have to give it to us because you have the edge. In technology, it is asymmetry. But 25 years of the relationship have proved that it suits both the countries well when they align. And I entirely agree with General Shankar that if we can display the same statesmanship, both India and US, if they stay together, we will balance China far better off. In any case, I don't see any other option.
Thank you so much, sir. General Hari Mohan Iyer, I would like you to weigh in. So one harsh truth that is emerging is that India still, even it says that it's the number 2 cell phone manufacturer for the world, there's a lot of import content that is coming in from China. Just like, US finds itself in the same situation as far as its military components is concerned. Somewhere we have to start doing these things from ground up inside India itself. That could perhaps make it even easier for some of these things to be manufactured under license or whatever in India. Your thoughts, sir?
Good evening, and thanks for having me on the show. I totally agree with you, but we can't go to step number 5 right directly. Possibly we are.
That's why I said 1, 2, 3.
So you have to climb the ladder, progressively. So I'm sure as the way technology keeps flowing into India, all these things will happen. The first thing is imbibing technology and absorbing technology. These are two very important aspects. You have to firstly understand how technology works, and then you'll have to play along with the technology. We are years behind as far as technology is concerned, like General Shankar said. And like General Shukla said, I agree, we have no other option. Because the Russians never give you technology, by the way, they give you equipment. Whereas we have a scope of getting some technology, and I'm not just looking at weapons. We have to look at a wider arc of things. I have a different take on what has happened in the last 2 days. Please understand, 14 November, I call it a red letter day. Because before 14 November, there was a question mark on whether this government will survive 5 years. The hour was very important. And what has happened on 14 November is now we have ensured that this government is the most stable government now. It's as good or as bad as what it was in the second term in terms of stability. Put the same shoe on the American side. The way the Democrats are rising and the way the numbers are falling on the other side, there's a problem. So if you go back to, let's say, the month of May, when the Indo-US relations started going downwards, US was a very strong state in the month of May. Trump was absolutely having everything on his side. I don't think the same was true with Modi. But come 14th of November, things have changed. Now possibly you are dealing with a government which is stable and which is going to survive. So there is no other alternative but to deal with it. So that is one aspect which many people have not looked into. And that is why this kind of deals and tariffs going down. Second, the FTA, we had a debate also, that day they said it's around the corner, by end of October it will be signed. Like General Shukla says, we are very strong in our stand of agriculture and dairy products. And America doesn't want to sign an FTA, which is, compromising their stand as far as these two areas are concerned. So in the GAB, they have put tariffs. There have a lot of, I will say, economical blackmail. In that scenario, when you look at what has happened now, it is backtracking from both ends. The tariffs, if we say tariffs are not hurting, we are also lying. Tariffs are hurting. So there is some back channel negotiations. We have said we buy LNG. How the Americans take it? Will it have constitutional taken on the reduction in penalty tariffs, which are still in vogue as I stand today? Those 25% for buying Russian oil still stays. So till a time a statement comes that 25% is no longer applicable, that problem still stays. So we have made a little change, and I look at it as possibly a little more positive swing from India. And it will have, as I look at it, the FTA will get broken up into 3 or 4 small, parts. So you will not have a full-fledged FTA coming up very soon. And the same line, I don't see tariffs also coming down accordingly everywhere. So there will be certain amount of relaxations of tariffs. And it will also end up in looking as to how the US views India as a strategic partner. Last 2 months have also shown the US that their capability of putting Pakistan against us and trying to force us into a degree of weakness has not worked. So they were trying to play that game that if you don't play ball, we'll put Pakistan in front. It doesn't work anymore, and that has possibly become absolutely clear. And like General Shankar says, when the Secretary of Defense comes and signs a 10-year renewal pact, a defense pact, these are signals that you may have shown interest in Pakistan, but as far as defense and strategy is concerned, you are still aligned with India. There was a question asked to Trump in one of the discussions as to how does he look at Quad. He didn't answer it. But the fact is, the Quad is the only solution in the Indo-Pacific. And without India, there is no Quad. I think we discussed it last time, it will become a straight line. So until and unless you bring Indian Ocean into the game, it doesn't stand as an Indo-Pacific region. And I guess the planners on both sides have realized that this standoff needs to be, pulled down. And this particular development which has happened in the last 2 days is possibly one of those baby steps towards bringing this relation back to normal. It is going to take its own time. Like General Shankar said, what was there before February, whether we become the strategic partner or we become economic partner, these are games, these are things that we'll see as things flow out. As of now, I believe that US has agreed to continuously develop the G414 as part of the deal, but that deal is yet to be physically signed. Will it happen or not is a question. How far we are able to balance our program with Safran to push the Americans into pushing this deal, these will be games which will be seen over the period of time. Everybody is going to hedge, and today's India is in a very strong position to hedge its requirements. So in that context, I look at the current development as a start, And the next 6 to 8 months, you will find slowly things becoming either normal or possibly it might go other way also. So the next 6 months, as I see, is going to be a very interesting times. And this may be just one of the start points in that. And LNG, like I said, as I look at it, it's a win-win deal. We continue to buy Russian oil as much as we want to, and we get LNG for 1 year at a price which is fixed. So we get, as far as energy is concerned, a win-win situation. And if the penalty tariffs are taken off, then it will become an actual overall win as far as this deal is concerned. I'll be looking forward to more details as far as how the other aspects of the trade deal are worked out and how the Indo-US strategic defense deals go ahead from here. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Now let's pivot on to the second topic. This is something that has been. Sir, go ahead, sir. Go ahead.
I just want to put a point in because I think this is important. This, you see, what General Shukla said is pretty important in the sense that look, we have very little choice except USA to tackle China, right? But the flip is also true, which did come out, but I want to put it across how USA feels. Farid Zakaria, about 3 or 4 times he's mentioned, look, if you want to replace China for anything, the only country which can do so is India in terms of scale. No other country can do it, right? And that is something which is coming home to everyone. That's a very important thing. So as much as we require, USA for technology and we have a partnership going and believe we are stronger and all that, the flip is also true. USA also has that much dependence. I've always maintained that there's an interdependence between USA and India which has to be taken forward. And we shouldn't do it myopically on the basis of a few agricultural products. In any case, even Mr. Piyush Goyal has said, look, we should compete in open market. We can't have a protected market within. If you have a protected market within, that's no way to grow. That's one. The second thing, which is something which we have to realize, and this is something we need to play, is this business pact between Japan and China. Remember, China, the consul in Japan, the Chinese consul in Japan has said it's time to cut the filthy head of the Prime Minister of Japan off. That is a pretty strong wolf warrior statement. And that has, upped the ante with Japan. And Japan has said, we will help Taiwan, we will help Philippines. After that, China has done sailing in the Osumi Strait. The Osumi Strait is just next to the Osumi Islands, which is part of the Osaka group, and down. And we also must understand that Yonaguni, which the closest island to Taiwan, is just 100 kilometers away. That's Japanese. So there is a complication which is coming up there. And USA can't afford to have India out of this equation. So far, USA has not reacted to it. But there might be a time soon where things might flip. Because largely the Middle East has gone quiet. It's okay, Gaza mein hota rahega jo bhi hai. He'll twist, and Pakistan's tail to put the contingent down there. That's a later day story. But what's happening in Indo-Pacific, I find that many of us in India and this part, our own thinking, we're not looking at what's happening there. I just thought I'll put this across, which is very important. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. And now let's take a quick look at what's happening in. Oh, please go ahead. Sorry, I missed you completely. Go ahead, sir.
This Indo-US relationship is so important that now that we've set off the debate, I just want to make a couple of more points. One is, you see, India needs to get a little practical in the Indo-US relationship. While Indians in their one-to-one relationships are intensely practical, when it comes to foreign policy, we do a lot of grandstanding. I don't know for what reason. And therefore, there has to be with less of grandstanding. And here I want to make a couple of points. Look at what South Korea has done. Some $150 million investment in the shipbuilding industry in USA and trading off for 3 nuclear-powered submarines. Why can't we do that? Why can't Mr. Ambani be asked to invest $500 million in something which will do him good business also and trade off with something in defense? People have been suggesting that. What is $500 million from Mr. Ambani? It's nothing. So something like that which pleases Trump. Let me also raise this unpopular point. What is the harm in recommending him for a Nobel Prize if it pleases him so much? For these 7, 8 things, we can just say he did some mediation in the Indo-Pak conflict. When we know that these things, matter to him so much, and in any case, if you're not going to do it, Asim Munir is going to nominate him for a Nobel Prize. So might as well do it. So these are some of the issues I just wanted to raise. And the third is, this is an important point. This some days back, the Politico had an article on the intense fire that Bridge Colby was under. Bridge Colby is wanting to pivot into the Indo-Pacific. He should have great Indian backing, but we are just silent on it because the American pivot to the Indo-Pacific in the context of what Jen Shankar said, what's happening in Japan and other, we just don't even follow that. I don't think the Indian strategy community even knows that what is happening between Japan and China. So we can't link these things. We take it straight to whatever that agriculture and all that dairy products. Well, there is a world beyond dairy products here. So this is somehow the connect between trade and the strategic stuff, must be there. And two more quick points. See, the power of sabotage is so much that despite Mr. Hedges and Mr. Rajnath signing that 10-year framework, I can't think of anything very substantial which has come out of the Indo-US relationship. Endless moralizing, talking, Indus, trust, acronyms, nothing is coming out. So the people who argue for the Indo-US relationship want it to convert into products and deals. There is nothing to show. So we must really take stock of what's happened, in terms of all the promises that were made, because only once those begin to show in day-to-day life, business, commerce, those in the defense space, will we realize that the Indo-US relationship is so important to us. And the last point that I wish to make is the Americans must do their mathematics. It is simply bad mathematics to alienate 1.143 crore Indians for, I don't know what that is, 250 million odd Pakistanis. It is just bad mathematics. And the last point is, see, we've been talking so much about Quad. As long as we keep this lie on that Quad is about vaccines, it will never take off. Quad is about deterring China. Deterrence doesn't mean that you have to do it through deploying force. There are many ways of deterring China short of force. But to say that Quad is about vaccines is idiotic. That's why it doesn't generate traction. So these are some of the points in all humility I wanted to make.